Welcome to Trust AI Partners, where we dive into the cutting edge of AI innovation and business transformation. I'm your host, Jim Hoover. Today, we're taking a fresh look at an arena many companies struggle with, rethinking traditional marketing strategies and brand growth in an era where technology, automation, and customer expectations keep shifting. Outdated systems and outdated messaging can hold you back, but the right tools and strategies can help you unlock new levels of awareness, authority, and growth. Joining me today is someone who knows firsthand how to help companies rethink not only technology, but mindset. My guest, Jeremy Berger. Jeremy is the founder of Berger Consulting and a nationally recognized IT asset management expert, and author of Rethinking Information Technology Asset Management. He's worked with business leaders for years, helping them rehabilitate ITAM and SAM practices to recover as much as 10% of their IT budgets. Beyond consulting, Jeremy's also a seasoned speaker on the national circuit and brings deep insight into how leaders can refresh their strategies to stay relevant in a world moving faster every day. Jeremy, welcome to the podcast. Could you start by introducing yourself in your own words for our audience?
Well, I don't know, Jim. I think you pretty well put the polish on it. I feel like I should send you a check or maybe my publicist to have my personal biography rewritten. That was pretty good. So, yes, no, like you said, my name is Jeremy Berger. Been a solo entrepreneur and consultant here for going on about 8 years now, and have been really focused in this niche industry of IT asset management. And for those viewers that don't know what that is, it's a subsegment of service management that is specifically tasked with maximizing the utility and warranty and usability of the hardware, software, SaaS, you name it, that make up a modern IT organization, and make sure that the cost of delivering those technologies and services are kept as low as possible.
Got it. And, Jeremy, you had mentioned to me before recording a little bit about your inspiration to start this consulting journey, but maybe for the viewers, you could just explain a little bit about what inspired you to start this consulting company.
So, funny story. So I have been doing asset management in one form or function since all the way back in the old Y2K days, if you remember those, where we had all this panic about clock on chipsets and what's going to happen when they don't realize that it's the 21st century and not the 19th century, right? Back when just about anybody that could fog a mirror was thrown into the IT department to solve this. And so getting started, he became a mentor of mine, but I was just a contractor. Again, specific problem, throw somebody at it and hope for the best. He said, the project's done. You're a really hard worker. Can you help me with this Office 98 renewal? And so, so that's how far back we're talking. But I found out that I've got a bit of a talent for it. I like to think, in my book, I like to call it a cast iron butt. Willing to sit down and dig through the minutia of these license agreements, and don't have enough sense to just give up. Fast forward to about 10 years ago, I was working for one of the major hospital conglomerates here in Cincinnati, Ohio. And my team and I were able to find an issue with the Microsoft Office 365 agreement. And I won't bore you with the details unless you insist, where this was coming from a duplicate count of particular licenses inside the hospital that resulted in about $1.5 million overcharge in a 3-year, $15 million contract. And the end result ended up being we couldn't get the full amount of that returned. We were only able to get about $1 million of that penalty credited back because it was a mid-cycle true-up. It was year 2, and basically the year 1 money had already been spent. But as Microsoft was just about to say, is there anything we could do in kind, the CISO sitting next to me jumps up practically and says, I want help moving our Exchange server into the cloud. I want help with Azure and Federated Active Directory. I want 7-minute, some ridiculous response time for engineers, and rattled off about 3 or 4 more things that I don't remember anymore. And they were like, sure. And the CISO pulled me aside and said, that in and of itself was $1 million line item in my budget that I now don't have to pay for. So that's when I started to realize, if there's this kind of impact out there in the world, why am I sticking with just one employer? I could probably be getting the word out and talking to a whole bunch of other folks at the same time saying, hey, here's how you do this to have this outsized impact. And especially when cybersecurity and the network integrity are so important to organizations right now because of the external threats that hackers, crackers, viruses, and AI agents are posing to modern corporations these days.
And since you bring it up, I'm curious. I could be totally wrong, but it seems like such a sub-niche sort of market that you've been able to find and monetize, which I give you a ton of credit for. Are there other people that are doing this, or what does the competitive landscape look like?
Yeah, no, there's quite a number of people that are doing it. And I could rattle off names, but you can just do a simple search. Some of the larger third-party service providers provide this work. SHI, Zones, Angle Point offers these sorts of programs, but you do want to be careful because just like with any other third-party service provider, you have to ask, is their loyalty actually with you as the customer client, or is it with the other service providers that they're selling through, like, Microsoft or Adobe or Dell or Oracle or what have you? So all in all, I don't remember what the numbers are, but asset management is a large industry, a large focus of IT in general. There's just not a lot of people that can do it well. Mm-hmm. So, and that's the tricky part, is trying to find folks that can actually take the information that's coming in from the data sources, from the tooling like ServiceNow, Flexera, Certero, what have you, and double check and make sure that those numbers that are coming out of there are actually reflective of what's going on inside your organization.
Makes a lot of sense. And before we get into the specifics on the consulting company, I want to just take a step back for a second. You, as an accomplished author, what message do you hope your audience take away from your book and your presentations?
First off, asset management is tough. It is tough. It is not an easy thing to do. The second thing that I try to impress on people is that it doesn't have to be as difficult as we make it. The overall theme of the book, at least I like to say it is that human beings have been managing assets for thousands of years. Some of our earliest documentation from, I believe it was Mesopotamia or maybe Sumeria, clay tablets, basically describing a receipt of cloth, a delivery of wholesale cloth to some folks. There was another one that actually is a complaint letter that reads kind of like a 1-star Amazon review for subpar bronze ingot. But on the back of these things, they're receipts that, this person has a bunch of money but needs some goods, and this other person has the goods and wants their money, and shows that transaction. So after 5,000 years of doing this, why do asset management programs come up with bad answers? Why are they not trusted? Why is it that your CEO or your CIO can go into a contract renewal with Adobe and say, well, we've got this many users, and then Adobe turns around and says, oh, no, you don't. Here's the number that we say it is, and you owe us 6 figures for both the arrears payments and the new contract going forward.
That makes sense. And so you mentioned the size of the industry as a whole is pretty large. Mm-hmm. And thinking about how many IT consulting brands lean heavily on traditional word of mouth or networking, how have you approached standing out in a crowded marketplace?
Well, so I got some really good advice early on from a business coach. And his advice was, there is always room in the market for good product. And then walks me through and breaks down that idiom, if you will, right? You need to know whether or not you've got something good. You need to know what your market is, and you need to know how to tell people about it in order that they will find your good product. And so I've kind of taken that to heart. So early on, I knew that my reason for existence, if you will, the differentiator for me is that it is a very repeatable, unique process. So I've organized my consulting business around an education first concept and then the clientele later. So that's the impetus for the book, is to get this idea we call pragmatic ITAM out into the world. And if somebody takes a look at that and says, hey, this is great, but I can't quite make heads or tails of it, well, then let's talk about doing some coaching. Let's talk about learning one-on-one or joining one of our learning cohorts that we'll be spinning up in the fall. And then after they see that, it's like, the other thing that we're really struggling with is we just don't have enough qualified people. We need some more hands on this problem. Well, who better than to bring in the person that taught you how to do the job to then help you get on top of the problem and fix your data sources, your reporting, and the like. So that was the direction that we took the initial campaigns and the initial marketing. Like you said at the beginning, I toured the country and spoke at symposiums and conventions, IT related, asset management related, talking about how you solve some of these problems and how this method that we have works better, faster, cheaper than some of the other methods that are out there. And the market opened up, and we've been going strong ever since.
And so outside of the public speaking, the networking, the word of mouth, what other marketing tactics have you explored?
Well, so we've gotten really good at our e-newsletters, both email and LinkedIn, making sure that they're not just a advertisement, but that there is some actual usability that is in there. You can't just send out a newsletter and say, hey, click this link and sign up for my class. you really need to offer something to the general zeitgeist if you want them to want to click and hear more about you. So that was the other thing. Did the marketing team that we've got uses a lot of AI to not only generate the content, but also examine what kind of questions are being asked on the web, in other spots on the web like TikTok and Reddit and LinkedIn, and then brainstorm and come up with responses so that the answer is almost right there before some of the readers need to ask it. It's been rolling around in their head, and then the email drops in their email box. It's like, oh, I was just thinking about that. Kind of like the Mandela effect, right? That you buy a car and you think it's unique and it looks cool, and then all of a sudden you see all these other people driving around with the exact same looking car.
Mm-hmm.
We try to tap into that kismet, if you will, because a lot of people are having the same problems. What they don't realize is that there's solutions out there. So once they start exploring, once they start asking a question, once they start to get curious, we want to be right at the front to say, hey, we've been there before. We can help you find that answer.
And so you have LinkedIn engagement, you have the newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
How about cold email outreach?
Not so much. People get really annoyed with a bunch of unsolicited emails, right? Same thing with the calls. We really do try hard to make sure if we're going to interrupt your day, that it's worth it. And nothing ends up, especially for me, nothing ends up short-circuiting my flow, if you will, is with a unexpected telephone call from somebody that wants to sell me something that they can't even get my name right. So, yeah, we try very hard to avoid.
Sure. No, I can appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if a prospect doesn't feel like they're getting something out of this engagement, then why should they participate, and why do you want to waste their time? I get that. So of all those tactics, what have you seen, which area do you see as maybe the biggest room for improvement for you to be able to get a higher engagement level on those tactics that you've explored so far?
That's a good question. I'm going to be honest and just send this out because it kind of breaks my heart. The convention circuit, doing the public speaking. Ever since the pandemic, that has not really come back. And that's a shame because people like doing business with people they know. And if you're in a convention hall, in a hotel with 100, 200 other people that are asking the same questions and trying to learn about new things and improve their skill set, it's a whole lot nicer to be able to sit down and have a meal, look them in the eye, have a conversation kind of like this, but so much more intimately and so much more trustworthily. Mm-hmm. Trustworthily, is that a word? We're going to run with it. Trustworthily. I miss that. Mm-hmm. I really do miss that. And I don't know how we're going to get that back the way it was before the pandemic. But yeah, that I would really like to see.
Got it. And the person or people that are involved in managing these campaigns, is this something that you're doing yourself, or you have employees, or you're hiring an outside agency?
I have an outside agency, so they're a contractor with us, and Josh does a fantastic job, really. And then we have, I have a engagement agent, if you will, and she does a lot of the warm calls. And after somebody, follows the call to action to say, hey, I need to learn a little bit more, or Jessica notices that they've been reading 2 or 3 more of the email posts, she'll send a message. At that point, it's really more of a warm email saying, "Hey, glad to see you're liking the content. Glad to see you're consuming it. Is there anything else we could do?" And start up that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And that really helps out a lot. There is, even in this age of AI, and even with the offshoring agents, I don't want to say that I don't want to knock them because they're good. There is something about just having that conversation when both parties are ready that can be very beneficial.
And so when you think about your total addressable market, what's the size and scale of that?
Oh, golly. Wow, I would love to be able to give you a high number. Tell you what, I can do this little thought experiment. So for us, our ideal client, for our ideal engagement, is really an organization of about 500 employees or greater.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why we say 500 is because that is the opening floor for the volume license agreements with the major software publishers. There's some specialty products, some niche operations that can go down. They've got price breaks and agreements that will start at like 200, 150. Autodesk is one of them for the CAD/CAM stuff. There's some ERP systems that are like that. Really, that's kind of the niche that we play in, that 500 to and above. And so you start looking across just the organizations in North America, just the United States. That's hundreds and thousands of organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter what industry they're in. The trouble is they don't realize they're suffering from the same problems as everybody else. The aircraft manufacturers have the same problems as the software manufacturers, as do the hospitals, as do insurance companies and banks.
And what would you say the spectrum is between some of the smaller consultant arrangements that you've had versus some of the larger? What's that scale and size look like?
I'm not sure about that question. What?
Like the contract, the duration, the amount, the low end, the high end?
Yeah. So one of our other differentiators is that we do short-term engagements. Most of our engagements last only 9 to 12 months. And the reason is really twofold. One is that most organizations already have the tools and the employees they need in order to do asset management effectively. What they don't have is the experience. But once you educate them on that experience, well, what do you need the old guy next to the machine for? They already know what they're doing. So once they're educated, after about 9, 12 months, they know this process, this methodology inside and out. And the other part that we end up doing is that we clear out that backlog. One of the really frustrating things is not just, you've heard the phrase tech debt, right? That's the stuff that you can't quite get yourself to throw away or replace. So you spend the extra money and you keep it there. And next thing you know, it's out of scope. It's out of end of life. It's not being supported anymore. And you're spending all of this extra money to keep up with. Processes have the same issue. You're doing stuff manually. You're doing stuff with, you're running reports in Excel, doing all of these touches. Well, that has a time cost as well. That because you don't update the process or find some way to automate that, you just keep wasting that time. And most organizations in the IT department, you don't have enough people or enough bandwidth to be able to figure out, hey, how can I improve this process? Mm-hmm. So bring in a coach and you've got an extra set of hands. And now suddenly that person, our coaches, are willing to say, hey, let me run that report. I'll figure out a way to get that report automated. I've done it before. And then the next thing you know, when the engagement's over, these newly educated folks now have all of these automated processes that they, instead of being actively engaged pressing buttons and trying to keep up with, they just need to set it off and wait for the results and move on to the next thing.
Makes sense. And you mentioned, Jeremy, bandwidth and capacity. And so I'm curious, looking back, from where you were at 2017 to now, how have you been able to increase your own bandwidth, your own capacity? How many clients are you able to take on at one time? How has that grown over the past couple of years?
Well, so our strategy, my strategy was really inspired by my late uncle, who was a successful dentist for a number of decades here in the Cincinnati area. And he was the only dentist, but he had his processes laid out in such a way that he was able to see almost twice as many patients as another doctor of a similar size client base, patient base. And the way he was able to do it was he had a lot of partners and referral groups that he could work with and stay flexible with. And he also made sure that he had a close cadre of assistants that could do the work and allow him to just double check as he needed to. Perfectly capable. He didn't hover over them while they were doing their work. It was really just trust their knowledge and their expertise, do the needful sign off, and examine the work product to make sure that it is, in fact, up to the level of his quality control. And you're able to make hay, so to speak. So that's how we do it. Automate where you can, but don't lose sight of where that human touch is actually beneficial. And then if you suddenly grow so fast, make sure that you have other trustworthy partners that you can then make a referral to. And that's about the best way to do it.
And how many active clients now, currently?
3 right now. So, and again, for just 3 individuals, one doing marketing and the other doing call and coordination, that's not too terribly bad.
Yeah. And
I'd love to get it bigger.
Sure. Well, that brings me to that next logical step, which is, what's your goal, your objective in terms of bringing on new clients over the next 6 to 12 months?
So that's part of the problem, right? So the typical sales cycle for us is almost 9 months, and it has been that way since I started. It got longer with COVID. Right now, with economic situation the way they are, it's getting longer as well. But it is very difficult to speed that process up. And God help me, I'm just finally coming to grips that that's just the way it's going to be.
Sure.
It's taken 10 years, but yeah. Finally accepting the reality. And
so do you have a specific number of clients? Like I imagine when I put this into a sales funnel, a sales pipeline, I imagine you have some sort of projection or framework in your mind with, if you need X amount of clients over the next 12 months, then it means you got to do Y amount of introductory calls, discovery calls. Where do those numbers surface? What do they look like?
It's changed a while. But shoot, you asked me off the top of my head, and I didn't think to look that up. So I want to say it's at least 100 to 10, and then 10 to 1. For our outbound engagement to anyone that expresses an interest, defined as 3, we call it the 3 in the row, who is reading our newsletter, reading our content, and shows that engagement 3 times in a row. Um, for every 100 of them, we get about, I want to say 8 to 10 responses. When we reach out, they want to come back and have at least an initial telephone call. And then out of those, we might get one interested party that's willing to sit down and take a look at a proposal.
And so then if you had to say on average from the initial engagement to telephone call, do you have a goal per month that you're trying to stay consistent with?
Yeah, try to keep at least 8 to 10 of those going on. Most of the time it's a 15-20 minute telephone call. The gatekeeper is really just interested to see whether or not we got anything stuck in our teeth, or if there's what is our real differentiator.
And so if you extrapolate that math out and you're doing 10 per month, 120 a year, that might result in 1 or 2 clients?
Correct.
Got it.
But our engagements are also high value. So 1 or 2 engagements actually gets us through the year and then a little bit more.
And have you measured the cost of customer acquisition on an annual basis?
And that I haven't yet, because in my defense, one of the things that we're looking at is trying to level out the income, right? So if you only get 1 or 2 prospects or paying customers a year, that's a big feast or famine cycle, right? So what we're doing is looking at opening up a learning cohort, start to, kind of, if you don't have a convention, if you can't get everybody to the convention and around the same table, then build your own and bring people into you, right? And so we're looking at creating some monthly subscription, information exchange, networking potential that practitioners can sign up for, and then we can work with them beyond that. So one of the things that we're noticing in the industry is that there is very little opportunity for self-betterment beyond the school of hard knocks. And that's not a good way to advance your career, because a mistake in a consumption report could have a 6-figure impact. That's what you would call a resume generating event, right? So how do you learn how to avoid those situations without causing one of those situations? Well, again, that's where the coaching comes in. Learn from my mistakes. And asset management as an industry tends to be very close to the chest. They hold their information, they hold their experiences very close to the chest, because again, they don't want to get blamed for when it goes really, really wrong. But truly, if you're not going to learn from someone that's already been there, you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Now it makes sense. And so pivoting a little bit more into some of the specific practices that you teach, tell the audience in simple terms about ITAM. What does it mean? What's a simple way to understand it? And what are the effects?
So real simple, don't use more than you've bought. That's it. It's like, really, you could do this job with 2 clay tablets and an abacus. How much are you using? Did you pay for it? If you're using it and you didn't pay for it, you're going to get penalized. But if you bought it and you're not using it, well, that's a bit of a waste, isn't it? So that's what asset management does, is tries to figure out where are you in that process, knowing that you've got 1,000, 3,000, maybe 30,000 hardware devices running around. And on those devices, there's at least 10 to 15 software licenses that you know of, and probably another 4 or 5 shadow IT that you don't know about. So that's what asset management is doing. It's trying to find the signals what is this stuff? Is it really being used? Has it been lost? Is it just sitting on a shelf and you don't know it? And then get that into the production so that the organization can get real value out of that spend that's already happened. Mm-hmm. Or catch up and buy the stuff before the software auditor finds out and says, hey, you owe us a bunch of money.
Are there specific challenges that you face or smaller boutique sort of firms would face in comparison to larger enterprise level firms?
Yes. You're constantly having to prove yourself and punch above your weight. But the thing that really becomes a barrier, two things. I take that back. Two things. One and two. First is education of the issue. And because it's a niche segment, and a lot of business leaders, even IT leaders, think that this is really just the way things are. There's always going to be a gap between what you bought, what you think you bought, and what you're actually using, and you just got to build that into your budget. But really what that is a lack of information, a lack of data that can shrink that unknown my brain just thought I was going to go for a really good word there. Risk tolerance, and shrink that down to, instead of 10% fluff, get it down to 1 or 2%. The other thing that we end up fighting a lot is the magic bullet assumption. A lot of the larger organizations have their own tooling, and they sell the tool as the solution to all of your problems. Just install this platform and all your problems are going to be solved. Look how great this dashboard is. You'll see all of your shadow IT. It's going to be great. But the tool publishers, the folks that are pushing that, aren't necessarily looking at the customer's best interest. They're looking to make the installation and move on to the next one. And yeah, they might offer a year's worth of service and support, but that doesn't actually solve the digital transformation and the impact that this new tool is going to have on the existing topography and process and even the users. So from the client's perspective, this is their first rodeo. This is the first time that they've seen a CRM installation, or not a CRM, but a CMDB installation. But if you bring in one of our coaches, well, we can be your advocate. And we have gone through this rodeo before. We know the questions to ask, and we know where the shortchange and the fudge of the tool sell and the tool installation can come from. So that's really the most difficult things, is educating on what exactly ITAM is and how it's beneficial to the organization, and then why just buying a new tool is not going to solve your problems.
And are there any geographical limitations towards the clients that you can service?
A little bit, because I can only speak English, and I have not been able to learn a second language to save my life. I even tried American Sign Language, and I really only mastered that one finger. Seriously, the contract rules and organizational rules in North America are very similar. There are some unique second use resale rules around software and SaaS licensing in Europe that you need to be careful with, but we can do that as well. And South America, Asia Pacific, and Africa, Middle East, they tend to get kind of left behind. There's a big expansion in the market there, But you start to get into IP rules and such that makes it really difficult to operate if you're not native to those regions. So the short answer, we tend to stick to United States and Canada and sometimes the EU.
But it sounds like there's no need for a physical presence with any of the clients, right?
Have laptop will travel. So
Yeah.
not really. I do insist that during the kickoff of the project that we try to get face-to-face. Again, building up that trust. How many times do you get to do this anymore? Before COVID, it was really not a big deal. And now after COVID, it's like, well, do we really want to do this? And then travel is kind of expensive now with the state of things. So I still insist on that. But yeah, geography really isn't a barrier. What is knowledge and experience. And if in the world that we live in, it's the 21st century. That is not a boundary confined by, 50 miles away from the office. Get the information where you can. Get the best information. Don't hold yourself back.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And in terms of administrative bottlenecks, do you have any? And if so, what are they?
Oh, on my side? Nah, we run great. We're just the three of us. Almost always, pre-sale. Again, it is education, working through the gatekeepers, showing that there is value in this, and then getting them to sign on as either a project champion or a stakeholder. That's a lot of the fight pre-sale. Post-sale, you've got to prove yourself to your data customers. And really the data customers, not so much the data, I got that backwards. Your data suppliers, not your data customers. In the pragmatic ITAM method, we make a distinction between who is supplying you data and who needs your data after you're done with it. And so think of cybersecurity teams who are notoriously, don't touch my stuff, Francis, sort of folks. Can't fault them. This weird guy that calls himself an ITAM coach knocks on the door and says, hey, you got a bunch of data I want. Can I have it, please? Nah. You got to prove yourself a little bit. What are you doing with it? This is proprietary information, and if it gets out, it could be a big. So getting through that process of rebuilding that trust and getting them to share that data then allows us to, as ITAM practitioners, build a much better, more robust, and more trustworthy product that we can then report out to business leadership, service management, and even cybersecurity.
And how about in terms of case studies that you've been able to deliver on for past clients? Have you implemented systems in place for being able to get the case studies, produce the content, put it back out there, and help you generate more clients?
Yeah, so it is a little bit tricky. Again, there's a lot of NDAs and protection of position in asset management. Organizations don't want to be embarrassed by a extra large penalty. Don't want to get dragged through the mud in the press. Probably the most recent one is AT&T pushing back on VMware on some of their changes from Broadcom. That's an outlier. Most organizations want the results of their software audits and any penalties kept quiet. So we got to respect that. So a lot of our case studies and sign-offs and referrals, references, we've got to be very vague until we at least build up that trust with you as a potential client to then make that introduction and let them say, yeah, this is our experience. That's a bit tricky.
Got it. And
I think there's still one that I love to talk about, but it's still a little recent, and They have very powerful lawyers, so please don't sue me.
Tread lightly. Got it. We kind of touched on it earlier, but I just want to go back for a second. Have there been any specific marketing efforts that you've invested in that have failed or fallen short?
Oh, yeah, yeah, um, yeah. Tried to do some fractional sales coaching. Tried to do some advertisements. Those just didn't work out.
What type of ad placement? What type of ad placement was it?
LinkedIn, Google, SEO. Trying to tie the SEO into that can get very expensive in a hurry, and we just weren't seeing the returns like we would think you would. Right now, we're starting to look at in place of that AI, the LLM position, and how you can game those systems in order to make sure that your name and your content is what they refer to first, if at all, when someone goes to, say, ChatGTP and says, "Oh, what is ITAM? And what is the pragmatic ITAM method? And who is this Jeremy Berger guy?"
Yeah. And have you taken that step or still in the exploration phase?
We're working on that right now. So
with that same outside contractor that you had mentioned?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And so looking forward over the next 12 months, where do you want Berger Consulting to be as the number one top priority milestone 1 year from now? Where is that? What's it going to look like? What's it going to take to get you there?
I'd really like to get us over the 10 million mark. I'd really like to see more coaches working full time on our engagements instead of the occasional one or part time going on. So it's really a matter of expanding the base, expanding the revenue streams. So really, really hoping that this learning cohort idea takes off like we think it will.
Yeah. And how many, just to quantify that, how many clients does that entail in order to bring you over that 10 million benchmark?
I don't want to say. That's a little proprietary as well.
Fair enough.
Again, we're small. We try to stay, there's some benefits to doing business with the small guys. And yeah, I can't give away all my secrets. Sorry, Jim.
Got it. No, I can appreciate
cute, that. Not that cute.
All right. So, bold prediction. How do you see marketing or consulting firms evolving over the next 5 years?
The AI is here to stay, but the content generation has got to improve. You'll hear people talk about the AI slop, and there's a lot of slop out there. Stop trusting the tool. Proofread. I heard somebody describe it as treat the chatbot as a first-year intern. You'd never send their first draft up to the boss without looking at it. You wouldn't send the third draft without you looking at it. So that, I think, is the biggest thing. The other thing is the trying to figure out what the audience and what the consumer tolerance is for attention span and related content. So, for example, AI, video-generated AI is improving rapidly. But the attention span is shortening. The other issue that you run into is that you will have these long-form videos describing how to do a task that is 10 or 15 minutes long that really, if you just spit out the transcript, you would know the 3 or 4 steps that you need to do and you're done with it. Why do you need to have this 15-minute video when 2 or 3 minutes just reading it is good enough? Figuring out that balance on when to do the long form explanation versus the short, do this, do that, do the other worksheet. That's something I don't think AI can really tell you. That's going to need some people power to figure that part out. And as the younger generations come up into business and they're starting to learn how to do asset management, it's going to be more important to figure out how they want to learn and how they want to reference your material after they've watched it.
Yeah, it's AI and technology can get you potentially 80% of the way there, but there's still going to always be a human component that's going to have to use some discretion and be able to get you over the finish line. So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Well, in knowing how that gets again, it's, if I can challenge you a little bit, it's not just taking the human element to deal with the product, but it's also trying to figure out, again, how do you find out how well the product is being received, that marketing is being received. A/B testing, you can only get you so far. But being able to figure out just exactly how these young kids like to learn new skills, if you can figure that out, you've got a license to print money.
Yeah, right on. Well, listen, Jeremy, this has been an insightful conversation.
Right.
From how you've built Berger Consulting to your lessons on marketing and IT modernization, you've given us and our listeners so much to think about. Before we close, where can people find more about your book, your consulting work, and if they'd like to connect with you?
So the book is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookshop.org, wherever you get your technical manuals. The second edition will be coming out later in the fall. We do not have an audiobook yet, but that is also something that I'm getting pressure from the publisher to produce. So keep your ears open. The website is, do we still say www? It's like never changes anymore. So the website is itamcoaches.com. That's ITAM coaches plural.com. And of course, I'm all over LinkedIn. Just look up Jeremy Berger, the ITAM coach.
Jeremy, thanks again for joining us. And to anyone listening, thanks for tuning in to Trust AI Partners. If today sparked ideas for you and your business, don't forget you can connect with us for a free consultation. I'm Jim Hoover, reminding you to rethink, innovate, and grow your brand with purpose. Until next time, we'll see you on the next one.
Good luck, all.